Hi, I'm Eric at Frog Valley Tropical Fruit Farm, and this is Florida Natural Farming. I'm going to walk around and look at fruit trees that I need to check the fruit on, like the achachiro, and I'm going to look at the quaimak and maybe some sugar apples because sugar apple season is fastly approaching. A couple mangoes. Mango season's been in full swing here, though we are not selling any mangoes this year. I've pretty much given all the mangoes away except for the ones I'm eating, and I enjoy that. It makes my farm enjoyable to me. I don't get any pleasure out of being a fruit salesperson, and so I brought the joy back into the farm by sharing my tropical fruit tree with people. So I'm also going to talk about plastics and plant metabolism, and everyone grows. I got a new car. I got a new Cadillac Lyric. Ooh, I love it. It's the electric Cadillac. I'm shocked I bought a Cadillac. I was a European car snob and test drove it, and I love it. It's wonderful. It has Super Cruise on it, so it basically could drive me to Orlando if it wants. It's nice. I like it. But anyway, so there's a real issue with plastics in agriculture, and I'm not saying this to pinpoint the finger or point the finger at anybody in particular. We all use plastics, can't get away from it, but there's some plastics that are overused, and it's those black plastic pots that they use in nurseries. And I know a lot of people grow plants in black plastic pots, fruit trees and food crops in black plastic pots. And I know some of the marijuana farms, they grow in black plastic pots. They also use those cloth pots, which are fabric plastic pots. Even though they're fabric, they're still plastic fabric. So they leach quicker into the soil. So black plastic, as used in drip tubing, has a higher percentage of heavy metals in it. So cadmium, lead, and mercury. I guess that's how it gets its dark color and its rigidity. So I have it here, I use it. I've connected some of our trees to drip years ago, and I've been trying to remove it ever since, but there's still a lot of it here. We only connected our trees to water for about 9 months out of the 8+ years, almost 9 years we've been here. So this is a stake, black plastic stake, but people actually grow fruit trees and get fruit from fruit out of black plastic pots. And I'll do a link to the studies. People don't like to hear this, but there is a lot of heavy metals in black plastic pots. Not only heavy metals, but bromated recycled plastics and other things that are known cause carcinogenesis, which is cancer. The achachiro tree is like doing its thing. Got some little fruits, got some flowers, got some yellow fruit. I don't see any golden fruit, so I'm not even gonna pick it today, but there's a lot of little fruits on it still, and it's a good thing. So I've been showing that quite a bit, and I love the achachiro. It's why we started this farm. So I need to plant the seeds here. I've been giving the fruit away as people come over here. They taste the fruit, and I don't say, give me the seed back. I used to do that, but I always let them take the seeds, and they want to grow their own fruit trees. So, and who doesn't like to grow fruit trees from seed? But everyone I know grows in black plastic pots. Even the regenerative agriculture people do black plastic pots. And just because they don't show that it's not common knowledge that black plastic pots are putting lead into our food doesn't mean it's not happening. We used to be organic certified, biodynamic certified. They do not test for anything. They just don't. They don't test for pesticides. They don't test for forever chemicals. They don't test for lead. The only time that happens pretty much is when there's processed food and the independent evaluator comes along and says, oh, this baby food has high quantities of lead in it. And so people assume that the food is clean and healthy until somebody points out that this product has lead. But organic agriculture allows for black plastic mulch to be used for organic production. We're not organic certified anymore, nor are we biodynamic certified anymore. I am so against black plastic or any plastic to be used for organic certification, especially for mulch. It's just not organic. It's a synthetic substance that they allow for use in organic agriculture. It goes against their organic farm standard. So when they use the black plastic mulch in the winter, probably when they grow beet crops, they've shown that root crops have a higher percentage of lead than say leaf crops like lettuce or something like that. They also found medicinal marijuana has shown high quantities of lead. This is due to the plastics, definitely. They use recycled electronics in the manufacture of black plastics. So your polyurethane black plastic pots are a source of heavy metals in your food. And microplastics. They've shown that microplastics move through the brain barrier, through the heart. They can move through cells, the molecules can. And they're full of all kinds of carcinogenic chemicals that have been known to cause cancer. So it's just, I firmly believe that plastic is going to be what takes us out as a species. So when you use plastics and you have your plants, your pot, your little seedling, you start in black plastic pots and you up pot it all the time, and you're using water soluble fertilizers and peat. So you're using hollytone and peat as your considered probably organic by some, but I don't consider that organic at all. The acid fertilizer is probably more likely to degrade plastic down quicker. I don't know this for a fact, but I could put stuff together fairly easily. The reason why I'm doing this video is because somebody said, do you have proof that the plastic is causing heavy metals in our food? And I'm like, I'm just thinking, I said, I've done this video before and I've done links to it, but I am going to provide links again to it. But I don't even need to be told that that's what it does. Just because they're not finding it in the food and they're not talking about it doesn't mean it's not going on. They just don't test for it. They do not test for it. They don't test organic agriculture. They just assume that you're doing the right thing. And if you're signing your farm plan of what your inputs you've applied, you're not applying lead and stuff like that. But by the use of black plastic mulch, you are applying lead to your soil, and you're applying cadmium, and you're applying mercury. So probably all these organic farms that have been using black plastic mulch or any mulch, plastic mulch, white plastic probably is black inside, has created a super toxic, Superfund site out of all the organic soils that have been using it. And the longer it's used, probably the worse they are. It's just common sense. So the mango season has been spectacular. The mangoes have been really good. When I say something isn't a top tier mango, I've been wrong. Floragon, for some reason this year, is so freaking good that I would pick it over a lot of other varieties. It's just to this year, I guess maybe because our trees are getting older. I'm not sure what it is, but this is sweet tart mango, and boy, are they good. They're always good. I think sweet tart's probably the safest, best bet for anybody's. If they could plant one tree in their yard that you want a good mango, it would have to be sweet tart. Always prolific, fairly disease resistant, always produces huge crops of delicious fruit. Never disappointed. I've never been disappointed in a sweet tart fruit ever. It's always in everyone's top 3 favorites, usually in the top. It's always been consistent. I've never moved it from top tier to below. It's always been a top tier mango. It always will be. Sugarloaf, I haven't tasted those yet, but I did harvest a bunch of sugarloaf fruit, and they're really good. So I know people that grow mangoes in black plastic pots. They're consuming large amounts of lead when they do that. If you're growing in black plastic pots for fruit, you're going to consume a lot of toxins. And if you're using water, especially city water, you're getting fluoride in there too. So you're causing like all kinds of gut dysbiosis that enables the heavy metals to damage your mitochondria, and in turn will cause chronic disease in you. So here's our koimak tree, and it had some big fruit on it. It still does. I'm trying to see where it's at. It dropped most of it, but it has a second crop of fruit that's now getting as big as the other crop. Some of them have retained on or have stayed on the tree. Not a huge crop, but you know, trees take time to reach maturity, and we're kind of a young farm. This tree's been producing fruit for this is its 4th year. It's a grafted tree. It has a long flower period, so I'm hoping it flowers some more. But it has, in the past, had a tendency to drop fruit when it rains, because we dry farm everything. I don't understand why everyone is not dry farming. Watering is just conditioning. If you think you have to water, watering is just conditioning. So I found that everything grows better, healthier. The tree is healthier. It's not going to die. It's not going to get disease. It's not going to succumb to freeze generally. Compaction will limit your tree's ability to overcome stress. So if you are doing everything right and nothing's working, it's probably due to compaction. Compaction is the root cause of all of our issues here. So I do see some smaller fruit forming on here, little tiny ones. And I'm trying to see a big fruit. I know I saw some big fruit on here, but they're really hard to see. Yeah, compaction, even if you're doing everything right, you cannot overcome it. Time eventually will fix compaction, but it will affect your tree's ability to uptake water and photosynthesize. Watering alone will cause compaction. And if you're watering through the use of plastic tubing, black plastic tubing, PEX, whatever, PVC, you're putting microplastics into your fruit. It just depends on how long you've been doing it and what other practices you're employing. People that use the shade cloth on the ground to prevent weeds, it's black. It's the worst type of plastic. You're putting lead directly into your food, basically. And then if you're using water-soluble fertilizers like Hollytone in black plastic pots, your tree's uptaking those heavy metals and forever chemicals and phthalates and fungicides and sun blockers and, you know, UV protectors, all those bad chemicals, stuff that makes the plastic so it doesn't stick together. That's what's in Teflon, same stuff. They just reformulate it. It's just all bad. You're making your plants uptaking those chemicals. So it may not bother you today, but guaranteed over time, it's going to manifest in somebody if you do it year after year after year after year and your tree's never had the ability to shed the plastics from its root zone. People don't want to hear this, but I think it's important, and I'm not here to be popular. I'm just here to spread my message about natural farming and try to help Florida and help people. And if you can't hear, it's probably due to your diet, would be my guess. Or if you get angry, it's because you're inflamed, so you're not eating correctly. But if you can hear this message, chances are you are on a journey of health and wellness. And the stuff that affects your tree, like microplastics and heavy metals and damages the mitochondria of your plant, is what's the same thing that's going to damage your mitochondria and prevent you from having energy or from losing weight or from growing man breasts or something like that. That's what's causing it. It's the synergistic effect of all these pollutants that is creating our toxic disease epidemic. And part of that issue is watering. Everyone that comes here, except for, there's a few people that dry farm like this. Not all farms should be identical. Every farm is unique. So what applies to me might not work for you. So I think probably the perfect balance would be if let your tree handle a certain amount of drought. But if you're in a yard that's small, would it be a good idea to give your plants some rainwater? Deep rainwater, big bucket of rainwater, like while it's becoming established periodically, not every day, but like once every other week, probably. I mean, there's got to be some perfect amount that you could do, would probably be better. But since I dry farm and I want to see what is possible, I am very strict about not watering. I don't believe you have to water anything. If you have to water, it's probably due to your compaction in your soil. Your plant can't uptake water, or the fact that your tree's rhizosphere is completely covered in plastic, which prevents the tree from being able to uptake water naturally. And actually, plastic causes drought conditions in soil. All this stuff is connected. We're all connected. And our planet is getting dirtier and dirtier by the day. Oh, I see somebody got my sweet tart off this tree. I should have picked it yesterday. I picked most of them, but I forgot one or two. And looks like two of them. And they got them. They can really skin a tree of fruit. I don't really let it bother me. It's we got so many trees, and I've been eating so many mangoes that it's okay. If I only had like 2 trees, probably it would be a problem, but since we have 270 grafted mango trees, I always have enough fruit for myself and a lot of other people. What I do, I give people fruit, but they bring me plants. So it's like a barter system. That's what I like. I like plants. I like plants people bring me. They don't have to be any particular plant, but lately people have been bringing me plants bare root because I plant our trees bare root. And I found that I take I try to plant them when they're little tiny trees, seedlings, so like 2 inches tall. And I plant them right in this because it's guaranteed that if you plant in something that's healthy and robust like this, your tree is going to survive. Or if you plant in something like this, which is mowed and compacted, your tree won't survive. And if you remove all the carbon, which is the living roots, and plant in just the dirt, the soil's going to get compacted. So your tree won't survive. It won't be able to, the water cycle isn't working correctly. So it can't uptake the right amount of water. So it'll die of drought stress. But if you leave the plant roots in the ground adjacent to your tree and you dry farm, your tree will survive. And you want a biodiverse orchard floor, so as many plants as possible to grow in there as possible. I don't believe a control, so something that you design is the best option. I think you need to, this is just my opinion, if you do it your way and it works, that's the right way. So I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm just saying what I feel. I would never expect somebody to copy me just because I say it. I think everyone needs to find their own path. No two systems should be alike. Just like one diet that works for one person may not work for the next. All people are different, all plants are different. But yet we try to treat them the same. We try to create one system. So permaculture, so everyone does permaculture, and or syntropic. I see those are the two main regenerative forms of agriculture that there is. But I take my guidance from nature. And so natural farming is what it is. And I believe natural farming pretty much covers all the good points of syntropic agriculture and permaculture. So here's a M4 mango. I haven't tasted M4, but there's quite a few fruit on this. Thankfully the creatures have not found it. They're not quite ready yet. Boy, they should be good. Some moringa, obviously. I need to do some more moringa cuttings. This is the hog plum. These are good. Yeah, so natural farming, I believe, has to be the best form of agriculture. And when people say, well, you have to water, all plants need water. Well, I think we are beyond being needed to be told that. I think that is kind of like talking down to people when you say something like that, and I take offense to it. Of course all plants need water. We need water to survive. But if your neighbors are all watering the trees around in their yard, you live in a small yard and all your neighbors are watering their lawn and watering their trees, and you dry farm, and you have a tree that you never water in your yard, that's fine. That's like putting a dog outside with a dish that's not right in front of them, but is in the yard, and thinking that they can't find it. Sometimes maybe they can't find it if they're old or sickly. They might, or they've just been kept in a cage their whole life. They might have issue finding it, so you have to show them where the water is. But to think that all these trees can grow without water, but yet our tropical fruit trees that we plant adjacent to it can't. That's just conditioning on our part to think that we know more than nature. And I don't know, I just find that bizarre that everything can grow except for the stuff that we plant without our help. But yet probably the worst thing for our plant is us overthinking everything and doing too much. I know that I've been the cause of a lot of my plants' early death because of too much love, or thinking I'm putting it in the best location when I really don't know. So yeah, it's like putting if you have a stock pond with water in it, and you put all the animals, like let's say all the wild animals find water out here. So all the raccoons, all the possums, all the lizards, everything, the rabbits and everything, but yet our animal we put outside can't find water because of the fences we put up where they can't get out. And fences below ground are compaction, so mowed areas. roots can't move through. Areas where you've removed all the plants from around the tree, that's like a fence disconnecting your tree from the system. Here's another quinmoc tree. Looking quite pretty here. I want to go look at this walkway I planted. It gets connected from the system because you've put a microjet sprinkler around your tree, which prevents the tree from communicating with the biology around it. And you've removed all the plants and maybe put wood chips over it. So there's no biology adjacent to that tree. This little area is looking good here, I think. It's a little walkway. I need to shear this right along here, but it's coming together. It'll take a while to get the landscaping right here. It's still a work in progress. But use microjet, so when rain falls on soil like sand or like the beach, and it comes up and it washes a wave over it, it sinks down because it removes the air from the soil. So all those little pockets of soil, of air that's in the soil that's not been flooded or rained on, because it does compact it, sand, water, it will remove the air from the soil, is preventing your tree from having the pore space in its soil, whether because you remove the roots from around the tree or you've watered, and it's causing compaction. So it's like putting a dog in a fenced area right outside of away from, so it can't get to the water. So the tree is fenced off from the water. I just don't believe that anything needs to be watered. I just don't. The longer I dry farm here, the more I see you don't have to do it. And people in California always have an excuse. Oh, well, this is California. Well, I grew up in California before everyone watered everything. And yeah, you watered your vegetable garden, but you did not water trees every day or every 3 days or once a week in the 60s and 70s, and probably before. You would do maybe a deep watering once a year, 6 months without rain, maybe twice. But you'd use a hose, which is adding microplastics to the soil. But when you're doing it every day or every other day, which a lot of people do, I used to do it, you're adding so many microplastics to that soil, nanoparticles of microplastics, all kinds of heavy metals, that you're just basically causing your tree, so it is probably damaging the mitochondria of the tree, so it doesn't know how to communicate with its surroundings to survive, so that when you go on vacation and you don't water your tree, everything will die. That's what's going on with citrus. They've made citrus so dependent on chemicals and damaged the mitochondria and gotten so far away from nature that citrus in Florida only lives on average of 15 years. That's totally unacceptable. Citrus should live a long time. Do you think long, old growth citrus fruit is healthier for you than citrus that only lives for 15 years on average? You betcha. All those pollutants damage our mitochondria. They also damage the mitochondria of the tree. Stuff's looking good. The tulisias are looking good. There's one there, there's one there. I do have about 3 or 4 different types of tulisias. My Philodendron domesticum looks great. Wrapping around this tree, it survived the drought. I found that once they get really connected to a tree, they don't need to be watered. So somebody brought me some, Joe, my friend Joe, lives in Vero Beach. He brought me some, where are they at? Some sweet tamarinds. Here they are. It's in plastic pots. I see sphagnum moss in there. I hate sphagnum moss, by the way. Nothing against you, Joe. I just don't like it. I believe it's a sink for heavy metals. Peat bogs are a sink for pollutions. Pollutants. Yeah. So I got my petalite tree from my friend Dan. Brought me this. This is a little cherry of the Rio Grande seedling. This is another Talicia. So I had this Colac tree. I kept wondering why it wouldn't grow, but it constantly puts out new growth, and then it gets eaten off by whatever's here. And come on, phone, it's not listening. I plant little trees, little tiny trees, and then I don't water them in. It hasn't rained in a few days. I used to not worry about it. I do when I buy trees from a nursery. I kind of, they're already started incorrectly, so they probably sterilize the seeds and grow them in sterile potting soil. There's nothing should be sterilized when you grow a plant. Nothing. Your plant's ability to function at its full epigenetic potential, genotypical potential, is severely affected by sterilization of seeds and using sterilized potting soil. And if you're using industrial fertilizers like Hollytone, or even worse, the non-organic version of industrial fertilizers, they're full of pollutants. They're made from pollutants. So here's a little tree I planted. I'm not sure who this is, but it's from a seed I bought from Bellamy or Anderson. Here's one of my little citrus. I think this is a little Clementino Rubino from right here. Clementino Rubino from Virginia Fruit Growers. That's how little I plant them out here, and they all grow up. They all seem to survive. Sure, some of them could get eaten. Yes, should I do chicken wire around them? Probably if I had a small yard, that's what I would do. I'd put some chicken wire around them, but I have just too much space here and not enough time. But if I had like a tiny little quarter-acre yard, that's definitely what I would do. If I had a rabbit issue, that's an easy fix, rather than saying, oh, I gotta leave it in pots because I have rabbits. Okay. All right. Yeah, well, your black plastic pot is going to damage your tree and prevent it from growing naturally. So it's going to be affected by the pollutants that you're using to grow that tree. Black plastic pots are pollutants, full of pollutants. It's going to cause inflammation in your tree. It's going to materialize as fungal disease, or a tree that can't handle drought, or a tree that succumbs to light frosts that you find here in zone 10A. Bananas are doing good. We got lots of bananas. You know, we have 450 divides I've done. So we got racks everywhere. I'm trying to not divide my bananas so that the racks get bigger, because in ice cream bananas, when you remove the pups, which is how they all became just single, because I kept pulling the pups, that's how we got up to 450. But when you leave the pups with the banana, so the ice cream banana, and they can form a clump, then your racks are huge. And bananas are unaffected by drought. They're a good indicator of the health of your system. So if you can grow bananas without basically doing anything, and they're producing fruit and they're growing fast and they look healthy, your system is probably fairly healthy. I don't do any chop and drop around them. I just focus on the whole system. I learned that from being a biodynamic farmer. So doing sprays is awesome. People come by here and get manure. In fact, 2 people came by yesterday for manure because we have clean manure. We don't use wormers or feed grains. Grains, just, if you're not feeding your chicken organic feed, chances are that your chicken's like consuming a lot of glyphosate, and if you're eating the eggs, you are too. So so we don't give any of our cows any type of grain. We only feed them grass hay. That's the only thing we add to their diet other than what they can get. We rotationally graze our cows to keep them from getting worms. We're going to make our pastures bigger so we can make this place work. We were looking for another place, but we decided to try to make this one work because everything's so expensive here and we really love this place. And then people do contact me periodically to purchase this, but they think they're going to get a deal. I'm not giving anybody a deal. It ain't happening. We don't have to sell. We paid it off. It's not an issue. So it's like very fortunate. And the reason why I'm fortunate is because I was able to overcome all the conditioning that people push on you from what you should eat and what you should do for your plant to make it survive and what your plant needs, and learn my own path of health and personal rejuvenation, and then applying that to my fruit trees. So I don't do any of these, people like to apply rock dust and other stuff like that. Well, how can all these other trees be growing here so well and getting so large when we weren't even around? So we have old growth oak trees, and they never were given rock dust. All trees and plants pretty much function the same way. Sure, some are better at hoarding nitrogen or creating relationships with nitrogen fixing bacteria, but they all fix nitrogen. They all use mitochondria for energy. They all photosynthesize. They all have the ability to get water naturally. There's water in the system if there's green grass everywhere, even though I don't have any neighbors that were watering. I think the reason why some of our trees suffered a little bit from drought this past time is because the neighbor that used to own the property next door to us left his artesian well on 24/7, and there was always water in the ditches surrounding this property. The new owner turned it off, and so the ditch completely dried up for the first time since we've been here. And I think that was the reason why some of our trees got drought stress, like this little oak tree, and seemed to have died. But it's coming back. I could see green on it. But I'm pretty sure that that's why. Yeah, we might not be watering directly, but what your neighbors do next door, even though it's more than 100 feet away, this ditch, probably 150 feet from here, it can affect your tree a long distance away. So I know that these little tiny houses where everyone's watering, if all your neighbors are watering, there's no way you need to water. And if you do have to water, it's because you've disconnected that tree from the system. So you have to get the system connected. And the way to do that is with the living roots. Garcinia season is upon us. It's kind of taking a break right now, but I did get a fruit drop off this Garcinia syllabica, the seashore mangosteen, and it's turning red off the tree. So it turned yellow, and then it's starting to turn pink. So I'm going, probably in 2 days, I'm going to crack it open and see what it tastes like. I'm glad I waited, because most Garcinias will not ripen off the tree. The Garcinia livingstonii will, as long as the fruit has gotten to maturity. A fruit that's prematurely ripened because the weather is too hot on the Garcinia livingstonii will not ripen correctly off the tree if it's already turning orange. When it's small, it's underdeveloped, so it'll still remain sour. I believe that's why people think that the Garcinia livingstonii is a tart sweet fruit, when in fact it's actually a sweet fruit. Because our Garcinia livingstonii that is produce fruit later in the year, that actually the fruit are very small, but they're orange. They're overripe and they're wrinkly and they're still sour. So I know that that's what it is. I'll show it since I'm talking about it. I did see this Garcinia syllabica male tree had a flower on it when I walked by the other day. See if I can see it. Hopefully it's there. I was walking the dogs, but I did see a male flower. It does flower quite a bit. They seem to fruit and flower. The males do not produce fruit, so you need a female like the Garcinia livingstonii in order to get fruit. And you do not need a male in order to get fruit on the syllabica or the Hombromiana, or the livingstonii. Hombromiana is the livingstone or the syllabica. Yeah. So yeah, see how little this fruit is, and it's already getting wrinkled. And it's got little marks all over it. It's just, see how small? That's what happens when the weather warms up. So these Garcinia livingstonii will continue to flower all summer long, set little tiny fruit, and the fruit will ripen at the size of less than a pea. They'll turn orange and drop off. So when the weather cools and it's still flowering, then it will set fruit and get them to maturity. So heat affects the Garcinia livingstonii. It doesn't seem to affect the syllabica. I can't see that flower. Of course, when I want to see it, I can't. But surely if there's one flower on it, there should be two, but I didn't see any more. I'm gonna look at the sugar apples real quick and then wind this video up, because we're getting close to sugar apple season. I imagine I'll do the sugar apples just like I did the mangoes, probably not sell a lot. I do the bare minimum of the fruit sales. I do mail order fruit sales, but I'm not doing it on mangoes. And then all the other fruit, it seems like I'm, when people come by, I'm trading or giving the fruit away. So that makes the job a lot less stressful. And I meet a lot of friends, so that rather than customers, I'm making friends. So it's a win-win situation for plants and friends, or customers and money. Plants and friends. That's how I look at it. I'd much rather have that. But trying to get these friends weaned off water, but doing that is hard, and nowhere probably is it more important to get off water than in Florida, because we have so many septics. Entire cities are on septics. A lot of my friends live in Sebastian. The entire city, 30,000 people, is on septics. It's disgusting. A little tiny lot, septics, and then for every house they build, they put in a shallow well. Guess what? Those shallow wells use PVC to suck the water out of the ground. The shallow wells is where the septic's nutrients all go. So it's like a giant feedlot, only a human feedlot, which are full of forever chemicals, glyphosate, everything else. And then they're turning on these shallow wells and spraying like this mist that I'm sure is full of for PFAS and phthalates and heavy metals. And that's what they're using to water their plants. They won't let you drink it. They tell you not to drink it. So why are you consuming it through your food? Anyway, nothing against Sebastian. I just want people to be aware of what's going on. I'm fairly certain that if you have a natural system full of fungi have been shown to filter out heavy forever chemicals and heavy metals and stuff. So if you have a system that's not connected to water, meaning your trees are not connected to water, they will form relationships with the fungi that have the ability to transfer water long distance and filter the water out before it gets to the root zone of your plant. So I think that that is a way to do it. I know my Dan doesn't water, and he's in Sebastian. So there are ways that you can optimize your system even in a degraded, polluted soil, which Sebastian has to have. It has to. And it's not just Sebastian, it's a lot of cities in Florida are like that. We have the largest concentration of septic tanks. It's 1 out of every 3 houses is on a septic here. It's unacceptable. We're on calcareous rock. Calcareous rock, the water moves right through. And then they mow over these septics, so the water can't go up, so it does go down. I mean, or sits there, so it eventually leaches into your shallow well. It would have to. There's no other way around it. And you don't have to water, especially if all your neighbors are watering. Just build a fungally dominant system. If you're watering, your tree's ability to form relationships with the fungi are pretty much put on hold because it doesn't need the nutrients. It doesn't need the water from because it's getting the nutrients from the septic. And then if you're watering, it's just sucking up that. So it's sucking up all the wrong stuff, and it doesn't need the fungi in its system, the endophytic fungi that live inside the tree. And the saprophytes and the ones that live in the root zone. Saprophytes and endophytic are pretty much the same. They've shown that saprophytes can deliver large quantities of water over a long distance. So what we do does make a difference. So this is the Florigon tree. These mangoes have been so good. I moved Florigon into a top tier mango group. I've been wrong so many times and changed. I've evolved. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to be so rigid in our understanding of things. I could change my mind next year on things, given the evolution of science and molecular biology with the rate of progression, thanks to, has to be a lot of it, for artificial intelligence. At least we have artificial intelligence rather than no intelligence. Would be a pretty scary place. But it's making us so that we're moving at such a fast rate now in all of our sciences that what we were taught is pretty much obsolete from the 80s. People still do it because they paid good money for those degrees, and they refuse to think that they paid all that money for a degree that basically is worthless. But that's where we are. You got to be able to evolve. You got to be able to think. If you're not eating right, you're unable to think. If you're eating polluted plants grown in plastic, whether it be pots or under plastic mulch, that are not organic at least, chances are you're not going to be able to think. I see some good size flowers on my Annona reticulata. Anyway, that's my video du jour. I'm Eric at Frog Valley Tropical Fruit Farm, and this is Florida Natural Farming. Please like, share, and subscribe. I enjoy making videos. Please leave a comment, a nice comment. I don't really care for the nasty comments. Or not nasty comments, but you know what I mean. I've talked about it before. Have an excellent day. Thanks for watching.